Okay, at 6:30, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have public comment. We have no public tonight, so we'll move right along. Agenda review. I'm going to add a 5D for the strategic planning stuff. I'm not looking for a big, huge discussion, but I have to get back to him. And we did get some information back on a couple of things, so I want to talk about that briefly. And I think that's all I've got. Anybody else? Petty, have? Hold on. Look, Petty first.
We need to add a non-meeting at the end, so after we adjourn, we'll just talk about negotiations.
Okay. All right, Gene.
I was just wanted to have like a little detail on the staffing, especially in the paraprofessional range, if that's possible, or we could take it to the next meeting if you'd rather have the administrators here.
Like how many positions are empty type?
Yeah, and what's being, if we're in compliance and all that good stuff. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. The next meeting is fine.
And then I just have one thing to add, if we can. I just kind of wanted to share from Saturday the New Hampshire School Board Association Delegate Assembly, just to kind of give everybody a head, just what happened. And
Yep. So we'll do a 5E, call it resolutions or.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll do a 5F for Hill School. And then and we do have non-public. Cool. So anything else for agenda review before we move along? And I'm a little keyed up tonight, so if I'm talking too fast and like skipping around, just throw a book at me or something and tell me to chill out.
Did you have extra coffee?
I always have extra coffee. Okay, number 4, we've got something for consent.
You have the updated bus routes. There were 2 changes, and I just want to give you a heads up. I'm going to be contacting Linda because after the 2 changes were made, Wendy said the buses were around 5 minutes late, so the kids were kind of already going to class when buses were coming in. So I'm going to have to ask her to back up the start times if it's going to mean being late to school. And I know that's going to add probably another 5 minutes onto the routes, but if that's what needs to get done, I'm going to have to do that. So the routes are good to be approved. Just wanted to give you a heads up that some of the times may need to change. I'll talk to Linda. There may be a reason, and it may be fine, but Wendy did mention it.
She wants to go ahead and vote tonight?
For the routes, yeah.
Okay.
a little discussion about that. Okay, so I was comparing the bus routes previously to what they are now. And the drop-off time for the Hill School is the same as it was before we made the changes. So I'm just wondering if we're,
Okay.
So I'm just, hopefully that's just, we've just added this stop, but we're going to get better and things are going to move a little smoother. Because those drop-off times should be pretty close to the same.
Okay. I'll check on that. Thank you.
So is there a motion to approve?
Motion. I'll second Jean's motion to approve.
No, you started.
Now you were before me.
Uh-uh.
Okay, I move to approve the updated bus routes.
All right.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion about those before we move on?
I just want to put on the record our I won't speak for the board, my continued displeasure at the duration of these routes.
Agreed. Anything else? Okay, then all in favor of approving the bus routes as presented, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that's number 4. How is it that all of a sudden we can hear the microphones? This has never happened before. I wonder if it'll sound good on the
Did
video.
they turn up the gain?
I don't know. Anyway, sorry. Number 5A, board goals update. I don't have my thing with me.
I think there were, my notes from the last time said that people were going to add to the template. I don't know if anyone did that. I didn't go in and look to see if anyone was in there.
Okay.
And I can't, if you must know.
I must
You don't
know.
have access, or?
No,
You just can't.
I just can't. It's beyond me.
You're not friends with Excel.
No.
I gotcha.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Carrie, you're still working? I don't want to move along until.
I have to admit, I tried to look earlier and I couldn't find it. So that's pretty
Okay.
bad. And I know there was an issue with adding me, but I have been able to see them. So I don't know if maybe,
If you go,
and like I mentioned, yes.
It should be outside.
Okay,
they're way on my phone. They're at the very bottom.
there, okay.
She put them in there.
Just didn't go far enough.
Got it.
Sorry.
Okay.
We were trying to keep them outside of a meeting so you could always find them.
Right.
Okay.
Didn't do
Sorry.
very good.
So I think we did some work on this at the end of last year. So, I don't think it's a big deal that we didn't get anything done, but why don't we take this as an action item for all of us? Take a look. If you see anything glaring that's missing, add it and then send me a note so that I know to put it back on an agenda soon. If nobody sees anything, nobody has any problems, then I'll assume we're okay. But if there's an omission or if you think that we have a progress update on one that's already on there, just fill it in, make it red or something so we all know it's a new one, and then shoot me a note. We'll put it back on the agenda. Fair enough? Cool beans. All right. Trust fund review. This is going to be hard without my thing.
It is hard. I did make a copy of where you ended. I take that back. I made a copy of the trust fund balances that were in last year's budget binder. So this is a year ago. I just put a copy in the drive just because I wanted you to see what it looks like when we got it. I'm not trying to point fingers, but it's pretty illegible. So it was the August 30th balances. So I think Amber got an email about this from our trust. Yeah, I tried to blow it up and flip it, and it's tough. But Amber heard back from the trustees yesterday, and Jerry wrote really good instructions to them on how to unencrypt the Excel spreadsheet so that next time we get them, we should be able to blow them up, see them, print, isolate just the school from it. But the version that we're getting for the past month or so is teeny tiny in PDF, and you really can't do anything with it. So I thought at least if we had the handout of what we had last year and kind of knew what we have already done that we haven't had a public hearing for, at least we're in the ballpark. Don't want Sandy?
So
This is tiny too.
I don't picture us like making all kinds of firm decisions tonight, but what I wanted to do is look at this and I think we're going to need input from admin on some of it. I think we're going to need input from Josh Coughlin on some of it. But I wanted to start the conversation on each one of these funds, at least between us and Patty, and sort of kind of get like, what is a cap, right? If we put $10,000 in the technology trust fund every year. And let's just say we had really good luck and didn't spend any of it. When do we stop that, right? If that fund hits 70, 100, there's got to be some point where we say, okay, this is good now. And I think if we're using the funds the way that we shouldn't be in danger of hitting that cap. We should be putting money in, taking money out. But I think that we should have an idea, at least so that we can say to the public, like, hey, yeah, we're not just going to put money in here forever. We're either using it or we're going to stop. And I don't have like suggestions or anything as a starting point, but I thought we could just kind of go one by one, look at the historical balance over the past 5 years on this sheet and see if we can come up with like an estimate tonight and pencil it in. And then when we have Josh here, or whoever is relevant to each one, or maybe when we have Amber come in when budget season is a little bit more underway, we can sort of say, hey, do these seem reasonable? Is that cool? So, yeah.
I will tell you that we did go through Jerry made a presentation at budget concerning how the trust funds work and so on and so forth. And there was, since the town works a little differently than ours do, the question was asked by Matt Miller, just this, how much is enough? And because of the way that, we've changed the CIP process now, we basically started just a few years ago, started from zero. So he's looking at this going 10, 10, 10, 10, or 25, 25, 25, where do we get to the point? So that's something they'll be interested in too, to see where that is. And was more on the schools versus the town because the town works differently.
Different,
So
yeah. I did put Jerry's handout in your drive too. He
Yep.
sent it to me for his document, which is great.
Okay.
I have the numbers too that will be populated from your surplus because that just happened. So those funds haven't been transferred yet either.
Oh, okay.
So we can just talk about that as we go if you want.
Sure.
I'm interested in I'm totally fine with the plan that you outlined tonight, Andy, but I'm also interested in receiving outside guidance on formulating our final answer. I don't know if there's sort of quote unquote industry standards, best practices here, so like, for example, vehicle expendable trust, if the line items in the overall school budget for vehicles totals, I'm just going to use a round number, $1 million, is it best practice to maintain, 10% of that in this trust?
Mhm.
Is there just sort of like a best practices that we
So,
should be adhering?
believe it or not, I actually wrote that down when you said it last time. And I did ask Canberra to look into it, and there isn't anything. There's no guidance. DRA doesn't opine on it because it's basically the local school boards deciding how and when they will use a trust fund. So people approach it differently, and that's part of the philosophy of the school boards has changed over time. Sometimes boards want to use them, sometimes boards don't. Sometimes the MBC has advised, you should be putting things in your budget, not using them as a savings account. Recently, they've been losing money, the investment isn't as good, and now we pay a fee. So it's sort of ebbs and flows with the times, and it's really up to you guys.
What about national organizations or regional organizations? I'm glad that check was made, but I'm just surprised and a little dubious that there's zero guidance out there.
I think school districts are unique in how they use them. I don't know. I'm not sure what to search for, I guess.
Yeah, and the first thing that pops into my head is, hey, we'll ask Jerry. But I think that goes back to Jerry's super smart on this stuff, but Jerry has his opinions.
Mhm.
And I think everybody that does that sort of thing for a living probably is a little bit, just like financial advisors or whatever. Yeah, that's a tough one.
The one thing during Jerry's presentation concerning the trust funds, where we are now with TD Wealth Management, they are conservative, I guess. So something like this, he was, I'm not going to get this 100%, but something like these trust funds that are going on in perpetuity should be something that's more of a high risk. So we're getting that return on investment, where right now we're not, because we're in this wealth management.
Yeah.
If you were 10 years left to retirement, you'd want to be less risk, but
Yeah.
because you don't go on in perpetuity is how we explained it. And so that makes it a little harder than it used to be. I believe the scholarship fund was pathetic this past year. And 5 or 6 years ago when I did it last, it was like kids are getting $1,500, $1,500, and I think that would have taken care of 2 or 3 kids this past year, something like that. But
there's unfortunately been a couple of transaction errors too that were made, and once money is removed, you can't put it back into the replenish what was done, because it was done. The money was taken out. So we have one we're working on right now. Another one.
In this list right here, the easiest one to take care of would be the new vehicle expendable trust, because we're planning, let's say in 10 years we need a pickup truck. We can kind of extrapolate what that's going to cost. So, or 5 years, whatever it is, whatever the cycle is. So that'll work more like one of the town ones, but everything else is on its own.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess that's as good a place to start as any. My kind of, I don't see us ever hitting that, right? I don't see us ever hitting a cap because we have to replace vehicles. But I guess in my mind, the easy thing to say there for a cap is, roughly the cost of a new vehicle, right? If a truck, I don't know, do you remember what the last one was? that you bought?
So,
The
yes.
cost?
So Josh, what he's been doing and like Gene said, it's more like the town in this sense that we only have 2 vehicles. So he just estimates for a 5-year replacement to make sure we have enough ready for when our vehicle needs to be replaced. And the truck was just, we haven't withdrawn the money yet, but that was 33,000. And then your fund balance from the year that we just ended is going to deposit 7. So
I mean, so if we did a truck for 33,000 now and everything's going up, I would say that a cap on that, what, $45,000-$50,000, we should never. I mean, never, at least in the next 10 years, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Like a basic
3
pickup
years.
truck now is pushing 50.
yeah.
So, I was even saying maybe 60 or 70, thinking in that.
Okay. And I mean, these are,
75 is a nice round number or whatever.
that's fine with me. And I mean, these are just sort of guidelines too, and something to share with the town. So it's not like if prices skyrocket, we don't have to take a vote to say, oh, we can put in 75. Like this is just sort of a rule of thumb type of thing.
Let me ask you this, because I don't have the best understanding of all of this. So I'm looking at the interest earned year to date, and in 1920, 1819 and 1920, it was minimal, but there was interest earned. Now we go on to, 2021, 22 and 23. Oh, not 23 yet, but we're looking, aside from the special ed, we're all looking at like negative interest.
Yeah, I think that's when Jerry stopped doing Jerry's thing.
Yeah.
That's when we switched to TD. Because
and the investments are losing money.
so the interest doesn't cover the fees, basically.
Right. So basically we're taking, tax dollars and giving them to the bank. So and asking Jerry, there's really, there's not a lot you can do unless somebody personally takes it over and does these investments, or there's another venue for it. But that, when I was looking at those, I was just like, I mean, some of them are small, but still, it's a loss. It's somebody paid their taxes and that paid the bank.
Right. Yeah, so the one that sticks out to me on that conversation is, I guess it's 8284, the Instructional Materials Trust Fund. I think, isn't this the one that Jerry brings up every year that we?
No, those aren't on here. Yeah, those aren't managed by us. There's the literacy fund and then the new program. So the new program was what Greg used for the animal plant science that you approved.
Oh, right. Okay,
and then
good.
Wendy is using some of the other one for literacy at school.
Good. So those are in use. That's good.
And I think those were trusts anyway.
Yeah, they were set up.
Capital reserve.
Yep. Or I'm not sure what they're on that sheet.
So
yeah,
we haven't. It looks like we haven't done anything in or out really with the Instructional Materials Trust Fund on this sheet.
Yep, and that we talked about that so this is a year old, don't forget.
Right.
So we had put some things on the budget cut sheet and got permission to take it out of the curriculum trust, because that's exactly the conversation we had at the budget meeting last year with NBC. Like, use them or don't bother. So I think we had slated around $30,000 that we were going to withdraw this year.
Okay.
Of things we had cut from the budget.
So I feel like that one is probably higher than it needs to be, being that we never use it. So do we want to call that 50 as a rough cap going forward?
I think that would be fair.
And we're going to get down to about that, right, after we spend 30 something out of it.
It's one of those old funds that I wasn't here when it was established, so I don't know what the intention was, but in terms of curriculum materials, when we've needed new textbooks, we've put them in the budget.
Right.
So it just depends on what the board wants to do moving forward. If you want to be able to offset the budget by using that trust fund instead, that's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would be interested. If we look back at past budgets for the past 10 years and we have consistently put things in that could have come out of this fund, then do we look to eliminate this fund? Do we need it? I mean, I think you could think of it as an emergency, and if we had a really bad budget year and people really wanted stuff cut, but we really had to get some science textbooks, then I guess we could pull from this and not impact taxes. But like you said, we usually put materials in the budget. So,
And the one I was looking at also, aside from that, was the technology expendable. There's a few withdrawals from that, but pretty much, I think, well, it was, and that was the one Matt specifically pointed out. Do we really need that 68 in there? It would be better, but that's a question for Josh.
yeah, I would like to hear what Josh has to say on that. And am I remembering
The other
right?
Josh.
Did we?
the other Josh, yeah.
Right. Were we gonna spend some money out of that one, but then something with the COVID money and making sure every kid got internet at home, we upgraded some stuff?
Yes, so that's, I mean, that's a conversation that we need to have about that trust fund, because yes, we were able to get a Chromebook in every single kid's hand because of the COVID grant. That's ending. So if we maintain the one-to-one devices for the, upper, I don't remember what year they're starting with those, there's going to be a really big jump in your replacement cycle in the next few years. So you have to make the decision about whether you want to use this for your replacement devices, or is this an emergency fund? Because if it's an emergency fund, we're pretty good about replacing servers as they come to end of life. But I guess $20,000 for a server, do you want to figure one in each building if worst case scenario? It depends on what you want to use it for.
I didn't even think of that, because that's what's the cycle right now? 5 years
For our
with Chromebooks.
4.
4.
They lowered it to 4.
So 4. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see because I'm just trying to remember back. I don't remember that stuff being in the budget but being pulled.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember prior to that, because how long you've had Chromebooks or what?
Yeah,
10,
we've been doing it
10
for a
years
while, and different buildings have had different philosophies. So Three Rivers didn't end up doing. They had enough devices in the building for one-to-one, but they don't give them to the kids and have them take them home every day. So they have stations, so the kids can grab them, put them back in to charge. So they'll have enough for every student. A 4-year replacement cycle is going to be, that's for a lot of kids. PA does the same thing, and there's certainly some at the lower grades.
So at that point, 68 sounds low.
Right.
And Josh, I can ask Josh to update the replacement. And remember, he came in and did the presentation and did a replacement cycle. That was before COVID, so maybe updating that will give you a better idea and give you the information you need to think about how you want to use it and what you want to keep in there.
Do we have a standardized definition of what is a capital improvement?
As far as being on the capital improvement plan?
Yeah, like a $20,000 server. Is that a capital improvement, or is that just like a normal operating cost?
I would call that an operating cost.
Yeah, because you're going one day, or it could be a capital improvement because a server's got an indefinite lifespan. So if you're calling it, let's say, 5 years, and okay, we've got the server, we know it's going to have to be replaced in 5 years. That way, it would go on to the capital improvement plan. But if you have the emergency thing, that would be a trust fund hit.
Yeah.
So operating budget, maybe not so much anywhere in there.
Because I'm trying to figure out in my mind a helpful framework to figure out the purpose of these funds, and then I feel like if I'm thinking about it correctly, I think it's a both. I think we want to be using them as a capital improvement planning tool. So like the $20,000 server is in here, and unknown emergency funding, some percentage of contingency.
I think I agree with that. And I would say that Chromebook replacements would be in the budget, but I think to Patty's point, that's going to hit us hard. So I'm wondering if we can, I mean, by definition, if we look at the, I'm assuming these definitions down here are basically a paraphrase of what the RSA when they were created. So we can use this money for that. And so I'm wondering if we say, let's say 100K, right, for a cap on that. And over the first 4 years that we have to like fully pay for the replacement, we just kind of take the edge off that, right? Like if the replacements for the year are going to be 30 grand and we fund 10 of it from here, so only 20 hits the taxpayer, and then we do another 10 the next year, we kind of like eventually it'll get whittled down to where we want to say, okay, no more, and we can just pay for servers and things like that. But we could sort of take that hit and spread it over a few years.
Right. So if we use a working definition of a capital improvement being sort of a non-annual known expenditure that we can plan for, and we plan to sock away money in these funds, then when that expense comes up as planned for, that's when we take money from the fund to, as you say, smooth out the bump in the budget.
Right.
As for the Chromebooks, I mean, I kind of had this thought, you can look at it, it's apples and oranges, but like a police cruiser. Okay, so they know right now they're, alternating years and stuff like that. So if we're going on a 4-year cycle, we build up the capital reserve to when those things, let's say 200 of them have to be replaced, boom, the money's there, we pay for it. So, you could look at it as operating because that's how the kids learn and they need it, but.
Well, and because I was thinking of it as operating because it's going to be annual, right? You're going to do it on a rolling cycle. There's going to be a quarter of them, in theory, are going to be 4 years old this year, and they're going to have to be replaced. And then another quarter next year. It should be 25% of the Chromebooks have to be replaced every single year, and that cost should be, obviously they continue to go up like everything, but it should be similar year over year. So that's why I was thinking it would be just a budgetary thing, because just like we run out of pencils and buy more pencils, we're going to
paving.
Yeah, that's true.
There you go. Every year it's the same thing.
Right.
So.
And just to cross-pollinate topics here, if, as I hope we do, develop a strategic plan, I would like to move from, we're in an annual pattern of, Josh Berube can give us the technology needs for this year for us to consider whether we draw from the funds. Josh Coughlin can give us the, vehicle needs to consider whether we draw from the funds. I would like us to start getting into let's write down the 3 to 5 years, let's have the working list of the 3 to 5 years of financial capital improvement needs so that we don't have to sort of start from whole cloth every year, and we can just sort of have that rolling list as a strategic tool.
And some of that's done. Some of that's in the CIP. There might be things we want to add to that, but that's already, is that a year or 5? I guess it kind of depends on
I don't know.
What?
I think Josh carries out further.
Yeah, it's like 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's 10. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so maybe we want to look at that and see if there's anything that's not on CIP that we think should be.
I have never felt that endeavor lined up 100% with these funds. That's what I'm talking about,
Okay,
expanding
I see what
it
you
so
mean.
that, because then we could line it up and way more readily answer this question.
One of the things that came from budget also was to start our CIP. And, Josh has beaten it into our heads. I want to have enough money in case a roof goes, in case a boiler goes, and, something major like that, just like a server.
Yeah.
Except these things are way more expensive if a roof goes and stuff like that. So, the sprinkler system breaks down, whatever the case may be. So, I mean, it's kind of like Andy said, it's kind of already there. But I mean, like capping it. would be, I think that would be probably a big step on like a strategic. We've got a lot of stuff
Yeah.
in place already, but finding out where those cap points are, and then okay, next year we're not going to put into the warrant for adding any money to the school building capital reserve.
Yeah.
If everything's gone hunky dory,
Mhm.
and we get to, let's say he wants, he suggests 400,000, we get there and it's sitting there, and we just
Mission accomplished.
right.
Right. So I think the one that sticks out then on the list that maybe doesn't fall into any of what we're talking about is special ed, right? Because that one is so volatile. We can go years without really touching it, and then so I don't know. You've got expertise in that area. I don't know if you want to ask Jess or whoever, but I mean, looking at these balances, I'd throw out a number of $500,000. But
It's scary right now how much things are, and you can count on a placement between the placement and transportation close to $250,000 per student right now. It's astronomical,
okay.
Cap would be
which
$1
is
million.
really scary.
So I mean, should we then be adding to that on a routine basis just in case? Should we be getting that up further than where it is now?
I mean, I can tell you that Deerfield had been having the same conversations, and especially about special ed. We haven't touched it. We haven't touched it. We haven't touched it. We should not keep adding to it. And now last year were in almost a $400,000 deficit in their special ed lines, and we have to figure out if we can have enough between their retainage and their trust to fund that. So it just happens like that. And you go years and years without using it. So you start to feel like, oh, maybe we don't have to fund that anymore. And then it just takes one thing. So
I think $500,000 is a nice round number, but I wouldn't try to jump there. Given
right,
our
sure.
history, I would say maybe, adding in $10,000 chunks or $25,000 chunks.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense to me. Is that maybe 20? That Melanie, you look like you're pulling something in.
I mean,
Right.
we have to have a buffer there
because
Right. Right.
it's just another result of the way education funding in New Hampshire works. It shouldn't matter that a family wants to move to a different town in the state, and that has such an impact on the community that they're living in. Those students should be funded, and it shouldn't matter where those kiddos want to live.
Yeah. But if I'm reading this correctly, we haven't made a deposit into it in 5 years. So pretty much any number will be an improvement from that in terms of us acting prudently.
I guess now that we're talking about interest earned year to date, I'm just thinking about this. That one's 15,000, but 2 years ago it was essentially the same balance at 477 and 36 prior to that. So that's probably an error on that line right there.
Where are you looking, Gene?
In the special ed,
Yeah.
21-22, the last year interest is reported on this, 15 grand.
Gains and loss 25.
Yeah.
I mean, that does seem to be off from the rest of the numbers on the sheet.
Yeah.
Like, if we can check on
Well,
that.
you got
Because the ones, I mean, in the same year, you've got losses in both of those spots for every other fund, I guess, other than school building. So to have that seems a little. Yeah, I mean, there could be something like that.
these
It's
are
just
all
hard to-
lumped together too. So they're lumped together. So maybe they reported it on that.
Yeah, I'll
line.
I'll ask Amber to look back on that and get the report from the trustees if we don't have it.
So just, I guess, to recap and level set and make sure what I've written down so far is a target of $500K on special ed at maybe $20K increments for a while. Nothing really on the instructional materials, except there's some coming out. It's just now. Maybe a target of 100K on technology, but that one seems a little bit more discussion.
Mhm.
And maybe $75,000 on vehicle. And so we're missing the first two and site improvement, but I feel like we need input on those from
Well,
We
Mr.
we have the
Walsh.
track issue.
Right, and that's the going to be the hard part about these things is because you have something like that that comes up that's
Yep.
what $450,000 or something every
At
once in
the
a
last
while.
quote.
the way the money's, again, listening to Jerry, he brought up that concern about the track on the CIP because the money's not available until December of 24, which means the track wouldn't get done until 25 at the
Mhm.
soonest. And Josh was thinking at the end of this school year,
Yeah, no.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
I did too.
Yep.
Oh, yep, I had that too. I'm sorry, I missed that one.
Thank you.
As a cap, yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna it's gonna spend down. It's gonna be around 50. We're gonna try to hold it there. Yep, you're right.
I just had a question on the track though. It's not as if the work will just begin and end in one day and the cost will be due on that one day. I imagine this is a several months long project,
Right.
I don't
Um,
think it's that. I think
it's
it's
not
I
that.
think it's a few weeks.
a few
Like, if-
weeks.
yeah, I think
Okay.
if it-
Even if it's a month.
Okay.
Right.
What he was saying, I think, is that it goes in as a warrant.
hmm
So that money that goes in as a warrant isn't available until December 31st.
hmm
We have once we close the books, June. It's available for transfer as of July 1st, but you don't know what you have
You
as
don't
of
know.
July
Like,
1st.
that's what his point
Yeah,
was.
so
You
it takes
don't
a few
know.
months to know for sure,
Yeah, so you can't encumber
And
it
you-
before.
And then
You
they
know.
won't do that.
and you're not going to do
Project
the
in the
track in the
winter.
middle. Exactly. So it's going to wait till the next summer, probably more than likely, unless he could get it done during April vacation or something. I don't know.
That'd be great. If they're gonna replace a track in a
It
week,
won't.
I'm coming over to watch.
Yeah.
So summer.
I want them in Germany replace a highway bridge on a train in a weekend. Everything was precast, preformed.
Yeah.
Whoop whoop. It was
Legos.
done. It was crazy.
All right, I'm fairly content with the progress that we made on this tonight.
Yeah.
That we definitely need to talk to Josh about some of these other ones. But does anybody else have anything to say about this or questions that we want to get in writing or anything like that before we
Nope.
move on?
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yeah,
year
this
old.
is old.
This was from last year, and I started getting all the. That's okay.
So we got it that year.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, yeah.
We have.
So
We
we
have.
got it. We got it that year.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I have a whole stack of invoices that we've paid. Yeah.
So go back to like after the books, all the money came in and
Yeah.
everything like that. 400K.
Yep.
Do we know where it came from? Yeah.
No, I told Amber I asked her to
Okay.
go back and look.
All
Yep.
Because I didn't bring it up at budget because I would have
They
gone.
were gonna ask.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, no,
so.
she just finished. Allenstown didn't get their stuff done. I still think the town's not done. So they were the last, stragglers, but she got hers done. And we'll have more time to look into other things now.
So speaking of that, so in the past few years, we've gotten building budgets first, and then we've talked to Amber a couple weeks later. Is that
Yep,
the plan this
that
year?
is the plan.
And are we talking the first November meeting for the admin budgets?
We are.
Awesome.
Let me just
November
make
7th?
sure
I think it
I'm
was
not
really
making it up.
good.
And
Just going through my stuff. And
yep, principals on the 7th, and then I think Amber is the 21st or something.
That sounds right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. Anything else on these numbers?
I think this was really productive.
Yeah, I feel a little bit better. Like I said, definitely have to follow up with Josh on a couple of them, but we should do that every year probably.
I like the strategic plan because then you can map it all out and only have to tweak it and not stuff. It's all
Right.
over.
Way more efficient.
Okay, 5C bus stop update. So we approved new routes. I asked Ashley to add this on just because I wanted to see if there were any updates. I know we asked you to ask a couple of questions without a whole lot of hope on the stops last week.
Linda and I were very busy and tried to get as much information as we could. So Linda spoke with management from STA, and they said that on snowy or icy day they would not allow a driver to travel that section of road, and that would have to be one of the stipulations if the board decided to go to that stop.
That's the North Pembroke Road one?
Yeah.
Okay.
She contacted the owner of Pembroke Sand and Gravel, and they are not able to accommodate us, number one, because of liability, and number two, they have trucks going in and out of there all the time, and
Yeah.
they didn't feel comfortable with
It's
having
worth
a
an-
busload of kids
Worth
too.
an ask.
Yeah, it was absolutely. I contacted the Department of Education. So the one of the lone people left that I've known for many years, Steve Berwick, handles all the complaints for special ed, basically any complaint. And I said, do you still have the person that you contracted with years ago who used to come out and look at bus stops? And he said, no, they haven't had a contract like that in about 10 years. And I said, well, okay, who do I talk to? And it used to be the person in charge of facilities, but she's doing something else, so there's no one filling that position, so you can't ask anyone. So the only thing left at the DOE for transportation is Steve taking a complaint from a parent to appeal. That's it. So there's no guidance.
Well, we can relay that message. I mean, I'm sure Mr. Pope would follow through on that.
Yeah. I mean, we did try to get as much as we could as quickly as possible. And then I did speak to Jess Bickford. She talked to Durham, who does our special education transportation. The person that handled the finances was out, but they are feeling, at least I think there's one at Hill and one at Three Rivers, and they are feeling semi-confident that they would be able to get that slot on the special ed bus, but they need to get the cost back to us to see what that would be, if anything, because we're not sure how many seats are filled. One thing that Katie did offer today, we were actually talking about this morning, was that somebody is always at Three Rivers by 7 a.m. And she said we would be, could probably make an accommodation if the kids needed to be there, and then could jump on the bus to Hill School from Three Rivers. So I think there's a couple still glimmers of hope.
Yeah. So do you want me to communicate that, or are you going to communicate with the parent?
I'm happy
or?
to do that. If
Okay.
you want me to send an email, do you want me to just give him everything we just
Yeah.
laid out?
I mean, it sounds like, I would say dropping off TRS sounds like the easiest all around, but it sounds like the bus company might even be willing to make the stop in normal weather, which from what he was saying last week, it sounds like that would be helpful, and the parents can do some when needed.
I think the issue is if you wanted that, then it also changes the routes, and they have to go all the way into Concord to turn around.
Right. Okay.
So it was, if you decide to go that route, it wouldn't be able to be done in the really bad weather. Like the same issues we have with Burkett Hill for years.
And I think, it might be a little icy today. At 6 or 7 a.m. is like last minute
That's
for
gonna be
everything.
hard.
So
nebulous. Yeah.
that'd be almost impossible.
You'd almost
Maybe.
had to stop it a certain day, regardless.
Yeah.
After December 1st until whatever date.
Like the range roads, December 1st till May 31st.
Right.
So. But
Okay.
okay, I will.
Yeah.
update.
Just share what the DOE
Yeah.
said. The option of dropping off TRS, etc. And then the other one from that night we already approved, right?
Mhm.
So there's nothing else, and then we got new routes.
And then and I had one other come in that we added.
Right. Okay. Anything else on that? Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So 5D, I've been not giving Mr. Crush an answer because we haven't all been here to talk about it. So I think what Patty found is that we don't have the money in the budget to immediately do this. So we need to discuss how, if and when and how we want to accomplish that process.
Can I throw something out that
Yep.
we've talked about
Sure.
as an administrative team? And this is completely your call, obviously, but the principals were asking if it made more sense to do district-wide strategic planning or whether the board is more interested in a strategic planning for your operations and the things you're in under your control. And we thought about it because Dan has to do the strategic plan for Pembroke Academy. We were thinking about it because you probably can't do strategic planning without the participation of the administrators. So, should we, or are you interested in doing a joint strategic plan sort of for the district? And if so, would you want one of we could pay someone a stipend that's been through the strategic planning class at the graduate level to be the facilitator for that process and how to tackle it on our own. Just putting it out there for you to think about.
Anybody?
I mean, kind of preferring not to spend money.
Yeah.
I think we need an outsider to drive us through the process.
Doing many strategic plans, I 100% agree with Amy. I don't want to spend money either, but it is more beneficial, even if we do it on a district level, to have an outsider facilitate that, because there is an emotions. They can grab all those details and they can stop the rabbit holes and they can grab what they need and you get a really good quality product. There's none of that. Do you know what I mean? There is having that unbiased person who has done this before is very effective.
Okay. So then do we want to add the cost of what we were presented last time? Well, I guess it's been a couple months now, to the board's budget line for next year and try to get that approved and see if we can contract with him for late summer, early fall?
So the other thing that
go about this?
I was just thinking in my head as Patty was talking too, because PA does need to do theirs. I have done strategic plans where I know we want to have our own, but the school board of Pembroke is part of like the district. I have done strategic plans where it is a bigger organization, but then our strategic plan is like a page and a half within that district's. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, then everybody has a piece of it.
Correct. So I have seen it where it is like a big district thing where maybe it won't all fall on the school board and having a budget where you've got like Pembroke School District and you've got your administration part and you've got what he needs to fulfill for PA and then the school board's strategic plan. Does that make sense?
What about a public-private partnership where we solicit sponsorships for this project?
I think we'll never have a strategic plan because I don't think there's enough people, in my opinion, doing many of these. I don't think there's not that many people in the state of New Hampshire that have a lot of experience like facilitating it.
No. I'm talking about like asking some of the businesses in Pembroke, like
Sponsor.
To sponsor it?
Yeah, make a donation to the Pembroke School Board so that we can get a strategic plan.
I mean, I guess.
It'll keep our budget down and help keep their taxes down. That kind of
Yeah.
motivation.
Yeah. And one day we'll make a T-shirt with your name on it. Ching.
But if we were
I can't hurt to ask, and I'd be happy to make 10 phone calls and see where we get with that.
if we were going to postpone it, though, it's not a bad idea of what Patty was talking about to like maybe get a proposal of Pembroke School District needs strategic plan, and if you're going to be involving all the administration anyhow, I don't know.
And maybe we can do some work together to start just outlining what the mission and vision of the district is.
Correct.
We can all agree to as a starting point, at least. Did you get any references or sample plans?
I did not.
I don't think he went that far because I stopped responding and just reading the emails because I could see that Andy was waiting for information to figure out budget and all that stuff. I don't think that he knew if he should go forward. Like I think
He did. Well, he also indicated that he couldn't share a whole lot because the plans that he would provide included, company information from private companies.
No, I think he would redact that. I think if you made an ask in writing saying, can you share some samples and give us some references with redacted information? I think the email, not that it's your fault, the email that I read was very like, I'm not sure if we're moving for, so I think he kind of just froze in his tracks.
I think
It was very unclear. Like,
I think
what's
for
happening.
that amount of money to get a product without getting samples is not. Yeah, he's gonna have.
Okay. I can.
Yeah, I thought we had crossed that bridge. We
Yeah, I
definitely
thought-
need to do
I
that.
thought we were clear that
We
he
did.
was.
We asked
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. So I will follow up.
But I understand where he's at. If I'm not getting hired, I'm not going to take the time to redact all this stuff. Or if
Right.
I'm not like likely to get hired, I'm not going to redact all this stuff. So I think we need to give him an indication that like we are genuinely still interested. Maybe this year, maybe next year.
And you could also put, well, I mean, maybe you could get started in cross fiscal years too. If you don't spend all your money in your budget this year and we get toward the end of the year and we're feeling good about where the budget's out overall, you could do maybe a weekend or a Saturday session with him to get started for X amount of dollars instead of just one, $5,000 chunk.
Okay. So I will follow up with Chuck. I will let him know that the interest is legitimate, that the plan is to move forward, that the timing is TBD,
Mhm.
and that in the meantime we would like to see some sort of meaningful example or reference material. Okay, cool. He
All right.
just followed up with me again like 3 or 4 days ago, and I knew we were going to talk about this meeting, so I just didn't say anything. But I'm glad I can tell him something because I know he's waiting.
So is anyone interested in me soliciting Pembroke businesses to make donations?
I mean, I'm certainly not opposed to getting money from anybody, but I think we also should plan to put it in the budget if we need to for next year,
Yeah.
assuming that doesn't happen.
Well, we
And
could-
hopefully it's not a ton. If we can cross fiscal years or something, then maybe we don't even need to up our number. I can't remember. I know you told me what our number was. But
4,000-ish.
yeah, I think that, something like that. But so,
I mean, you have a chunk of money. That's why if he would start by
What was it? The quote on it, or
over 5,
I
Yeah.
can't remember.
oh,
yeah, I think we had 4 and it was 55. Was it 5,500? Something like that.
or we could plagiarize. All kidding aside, I mean, I just popped
know.
on here. What? I just popped on here, and there's Hudson, Guilford,
Oh, yeah.
and
There's-
a few other bunch of other.
There's tons of templates. And honestly, like that's something you guys can think about as a school board too. I've done this many times. There's many templates out there. That's not the really hard part.
Mhm.
The really hard part is dedicating that 4, 5, 6 hours and having somebody who knows what they're doing to go through those questions and take all that information and make it make sense.
Mhm.
It's the
For
facility.
us.
Correct.
Right.
That's the hard part.
Mhm.
Not creating.
No. What I was saying, like, and when I said plagiarize, I didn't actually mean
No.
that, but I meant like, if we went through and read some of these things and give ourselves an idea.
Especially for mission and vision.
Yeah.
You look at the
Right.
key words and
And
say, okay, what's
facilitate.
most important for us when our students leave us?
Right.
And also, get ourselves asking questions. So,
Okay. Like I said, I'll follow up with him. I'll make sure he knows that we are interested, that we are planning on it, and that the timing will be to be determined, and ask him for some samples or whatever he can get us ahead of time. Anything else on that? Okay. So we had a 5E for Carrie to give us an update on what that meeting's called.
Did you have a good time?
The New Hampshire School Board Delegates Assembly. Yes, I learned a lot. I actually got a promotion. I brought my name tag just so that everybody
Oh.
could see I was listed as the board chair for
Nice.
Pembroke.
Nice.
I said, Andy
Does that
better
mean I'm
not
on
be.
vacation for that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I said, Andy better not be trying to pull anything here. So it was a very interesting day. It did run quite long, but I think it was because there was a lot of amendments made to those resolutions. So almost every single one that, even though the New Hampshire School Board Association was supporting it with alternative language, people were making amendments to the alternative language. Then and you know how it is when you're voting, you have to vote on this and vote. So it did take a little longer than I was expecting, but I did get a lot of information. The presenter that started was Oyster River School Board. They were selected as the School Board of the Year. So they just kind of ran through, you know, some of the things that they think are the reasons why they were picked as school board of the year. One thing at the beginning, they said they are a cooperative school and they have one board, which I looked around the room and I could see Chris from Allenstown, and I saw, you know, the new delegate from Deerfield shaking their head, even though, I mean, obviously, but so that may be something that gets brought up. So just giving a little bit of a heads up. And then the superintendent and the board chair were the ones that did the presentation. The superintendent said something that kind of stuck in my head. He said, you can only work at the speed of trust, when he was talking about their middle school project. He said, if the town's not trusting you, then they're not going to help you move forward, which kind of it really stuck with me. I'm like, yeah, that really makes a lot of sense. So they said their board goals feed off of their strategic plan, and they are currently on she said their second round. So they did a 5-year. They're just now starting their second 5-year. She did say their first 5-year was actually a 7-year because of COVID. So technically they're still calling it a 5-year plan, but they're starting their second 5-year. They also were talking about fiscal responsibility, which obviously all school boards want to be fiscally responsible. They said on average, the budget increases, their budget increases stay under 3% over the last decade. And a lot of people in the audience were kind of, you know, hemming and hawing, because obviously that's something that everybody wants to do, but how exactly do you do it with the way things are going right now? They do have a communications coordinator, which I know we've been kind of talking about our communications committee, so that's good. Yeah, go right ahead.
So you said on average 3% increase. So they didn't say whether it was like 1%, 1%, 8%, 1%, 1%, 9%. Like it was on average 3% was the stat.
Said on average, they keep it under 3% over the last decade. Yes. So yes, I see where you're going with that.
I would bet that ours are very, very close to that.
Yeah.
Our operating.
Yeah. If you just look at the budget, when you take into account revenues going down, things get wonky. But I'd bet we're in that range.
Yeah.
Over 10 years.
No, that's okay. No, that's fine. So, the communication. So they have a coordinator that does all their alerts. That they have someone who runs their website specifically for the Oyster River School Board. And then they dug really deep into the new middle school, and they said the biggest thing that put them over, they had a 76% approval for the new school for their first try. And they said that was just because of a lot of public input and what they called the Go Vote initiative, where they had 144 evening meetings in the year trying to plan the superintendent, not trying to give you any extra duties here, Patty, but I'm just going to say it. The superintendent was sitting in people's living rooms having conversations with people about the school, why they need the school, which was surprising to me, because yeah, well, that's the thing. I was kind of confused, and there wasn't like a real question and answer period, but I did want to say, well, because aren't we under the impression that we're really not supposed to be selling this? Yeah. But they were, they had meetings, and the school board was there, and the superintendents were there. The superintendent was there, and they had meetings at people's houses. And so I just thought that was kind of community, though. Well, that's understandable. And I understand we're, Oyster River and us, we're different towns. We're made up of different, what am I trying to say? Yeah, folk. So then the only other thing was, because I know we've been talking about the superintendent evaluation, they have a template that they use. They start in October, and they give it they do the evaluation, what they're doing well, what they need to improve on, and what they want to see happen. They start in October. They don't give it to the superintendent until February. which I was really surprised about that. Yeah, so just, interesting little things. The business portion that we got to, so there's 161 school boards in the state. There was 59 delegates there, which, at least it was a quorum. But I was kind of surprised when they said 161. I didn't realize our state was that big. One bylaw change that I wanted to share is that in fall of 2024, the dues will be going up. School board dues will be going up. They haven't been. So Barrett was saying it's time to start getting on to kind of a, even if it's a little bit, but they will not go up. They will stay under a 10% increase is what he said.
They didn't know how much yet.
He didn't, they're working on the spreadsheet now, trying to kind of figure it out. And they got rid of I put a mark in here so I could just show you. They did get rid of this scale that they had before. Sorry. So organized when I got here. So it was like, if you have this much in expenditures, then it's this. So they're getting rid of this, and they're going to have a much simpler formula for it. So, but that's to be determined.
Okay.
And then, like I said, the resolutions went how we had wanted them to go, with a whole lot of amendments, but they all went as we voted. So that's it. That's all I have. Yeah.
Any questions for Carrie? Cool. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. And the last one is Hill School.
Reminding me, Melanie. So we had our first meeting today that included our new construction management company, which was great. So our architectural firm, Eric in particular, went through all the slides that you guys have seen, so that our construction management company knew everything we had gone through, how we got to this point. It was kind of exciting when he got to the timeline and we were in like the final quarter of the whole entire project. That was kind of exciting. We have a commitment from them, but they need something from us. So instead of getting to the point where they come with this number and we say, oh my gosh, there's no way we can go with that number, they would love, even if it's a range, a not to exceed number, because then they can come back to us and say, okay, what you wanted, that's, we can't, what you've picked out won't work. So if you get rid of all the windows, if you get rid of 5 classrooms, all that, like glass walls is what I meant, not the windows, that we could help get you to that number. So they're asking if we have a do not exceed number.
I don't even know where to start.
I don't either.
Okay.
I mean, I don't even know what range we should be in.
Well, what we talked about was, okay, well, this could come out to be a $50 million project, and the board would say, I can't support that moving forward. So is there a number that you want us to give them that's, like, don't come with more than 25 million, or as a board, we're not going to support that. Is there a number?
Yeah. Do you know offhand what the final number was for Allenstown's K-8 school?
32.
I
And
wasn't sure.
And that was a
And
little
I-
while ago.
Yeah.
I only looked
It was only
that
2
up
years.
because of when one of the construction management companies is like, well, the way you have it sit, we're looking at between 40 and 45 and 50. And I went, oh my God. So then I looked, and it was, Allenstown was 32.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's 2 more grades, but they probably have less kids. So is it roughly the same? Is
The
our
building's
K
huge.
is our K-4 versus their K-8 a similar number of students? I should be able to look
I
that
know.
up.
I can't
We had it
remember.
in-
I can't remember what their enrollment's going to
We
be.
had it. Didn't we have something? No, we
I
didn't. That
can't
was
remember.
no. That was the district assessment. I was
Yeah,
thinking
that-
of.
yeah,
That
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
break it down.
I mean, and that project was quoted a couple of years ago, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I mean, it's
Yeah, I mean, it's
18,
been a while.
I think.
The
Right?
costs have skyrocketed,
Right.
and the new build. They gave us an example. What was the one they're working on now? Yeah.
So I mean, there's a cost.
Mhm. He didn't say.
Oh, you're looking at new buildings at 32, new building at 27, addition should be less.
It's not.
No.
No,
and it's not.
unfortunately.
I know, I was-
Unfortunately, it's not just an addition. It's the
So we're
this the structural engineers had concerns about us taking that 1960s wing and trying to upgrade it, and they said it's better to. It's actually, you think it's going to be cheaper to renovate, and they said it's actually not. It's cheaper to get rid of and build a new.
I just wanted to be clear on that because I figured
Yeah.
that was the case. But,
Yeah.
as far as the number goes,
You tell them to aim for 35, but don't talk to us
About-
over 40.
what?
Or I don't.
No,
I
because got
have
these
no
numbers
idea.
Here, you know, it's like
I think I feel a little bit differently. I don't understand why we've been going through this process for a year of visioning and designing what the community and the student population needs. And if that costs out to $45 million, then to say, no, we're only going to spend 25 to 30.
Well, and I guess
Um,
that's the, like, can we ask them, like, can you give us 3? Like, didn't we talk about that at one point? Like, can you, or even 2, like, okay, do it just like the architect said. And that's 43 million. What does 37 million look like? Like, is it just getting rid of some niceties?
Yeah, no, we
Or-
can't. They need more specific information than that.
I mean, I look at that when they gave the presentations. Saw a lot of needs in there. I also saw a lot of wants in there. And the wants, I'm good with. The wants, I mean, it goes on to all of us in the town to pay for that. Wants are nice, but I mean, a school like Three Rivers, is it state of the art? No, it's not state of the art, but it's safe and it's conducive to learning. So a box with 4 walls and enough classrooms to house everybody for the next 20 years is basically, with the infrastructure that, for today's learning versus having to retrofit it and maybe look into the future. But, glass walls and all that kind of stuff, I won't support that. It's got to be, the basic, has to be a basic structure that's, again, safe, comfortable, and conducive to learning.
Why won't you support that if it
'Cause
promotes health and makes for better learning? I mean, I don't think we have enough information to make that sort of call.
I just personally, I view it as like frivolous because
Yeah.
it's not my money. If I'm spending my money on something, I'm gonna do what I want
Mhm.
and need.
I also think, though,
versus-
that we need to think about the upfront costs, the cost to build, plus the 20 years of lifetime cost operations. And those sort of glass walls save on energy costs. So it's like well, pay for it now, pay for it later.
I don't want to get stuck on glass walls.
Yeah,
was
no,
just-
I
I
know,
just
I
put
know,
that out
but-
there.
I'll ask you
But-
that question because I don't understand it, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
I am super uncomfortable with this process. I don't think it's fair at all.
I kind of agree. And then even though I'm on the committee and I get that they wanted us to weigh it out, I understand it. But on the other hand, too, what I struggled with after the meeting tonight, if we could have a brand new school for $27 to $29 million, there's no way we can go after our town of Pembroke and ask for $42 million that includes renovating and keeping some 60s and 80s wings and stuff. When you have a brand new school for $20 million less, like, how are you going to do that? There's so many variables that are,
Yeah.
we need to come up with a range because they're trying to work on it. Budget wants this, CIP wants this. We need something of,
But
where we're
it just
comfortable
seems
with.
backwards, like without
know.
giving us option. Like if I just had not just, it's been 3 years, but I had addition done on my house. I had a garage built, and when a contractor came in, he told me this is what it'll look like, and to get that, this is how much it costs. He didn't say how much do you want it to cost, and if he would have said, do you want it to cost 35 grand or 25 grand, I would have said, what are the differences between those two prices? Them making us set a number just seems like, go back and tell them 20 million.
So
And when they
it's-
say I can't do that, it's going to be 27, then there's your number.
I think they're concerned with our timeline as well, and they're trying to respect and get us the closest number that we can get to put on the warrant. So if you want them to just design what, just to estimate out the design that we came up with, they can certainly do that, and they think they can have it done by November 21st. We're meeting. So it just doesn't give us a ton of time if whatever they come back with, you guys say, no way. Huh? Yeah. Yes.
That's what I would like what Andy was just saying. That's
Yeah.
the way I'm
How
thinking
much
about
would
it.
it-
I figured they'd
Yeah.
look at the plan and say, okay, this is how much
Yes.
this is going to cost you. What if I don't want to spend that much?
Yes.
And if you have the list of things, whoop, gone.
Yeah, they did say they would do that for us.
So, give us
That would
two
be
nu-
a
give us
starting
two
point at
numbers,
least.
or
So-
then we've got a range.
Not to throw a monkey wrench into the works here. However, if we are talking approximately twice the cost to redo the existing school, and I know that's an oversimplification of what we're talking about, versus building a new school, I think we might need to seriously consider building a new school. I'm sorry. I think we
No,
might need to
no, I-
pause
I know
and
100%
rethink this. I mean,
Right.
if a new school costs 25 to 30,
You mean on new land?
no, I'm looking at the tax map right now. I mean, that is a humongous chunk of land on that same property.
Most-
I am not convinced that it is so unbuildable that there can't be a spot.
I think we need people in this room that would be able to answer and talk to some of the
Because there-
questions
And
you're
there
coming up
is-
with. I can't.
Me either.
I know, but I'm suggesting that we might want to seriously consider that option if the difference is 10 to 20 million dollars in cost.
And I don't
So,
know if
a
that's
lot
the
of-
case.
A lot of that land up there above the school is wetland.
Wetland.
And they have contractors have been in there on the privately owned side of it
Mhm.
to try to do development of those areas, and they haven't been able to do it because it is so wet. And now that the state has come, or no, the state or federal government, anyway, the new MS4 plans with the stormwater
Mhm.
and groundwater runoff
Mhm.
stuff. So that also throws a monkey wrench into the whole thing if you go up into the wet stuff. And then on top of everything else, wetlands are good.
Yeah.
So,
So, I mean, I think you know that I do environmental law and
Well,
real
yeah, I
estate
know.
development for work.
but there's a,
I have not seen a wetland delineation of this property that tells me this is not a possibility. And that would cost us a few $1,000s. And if it would cost us a few $1,000s to rule out the possibility of saving 10 to 20 million dollars.
That's not the impression they gave.
Check.
Because what do you remember? Somebody did bring up, well, why don't we just build a new school? It was brought up meetings ago, and I don't remember their response to.
There's
to
something on the
why-
website. There's the
was-
site thing that they did, that big report. Isn't that
so they
on
have
there?
a site,
It is,
but
but I don't. Yeah,
they would have done a site.
I feel like if you're gonna, we really need our company to come here. Because somebody threw that comment out though at a meeting, just that, like, well,
Mhm.
Allenstown just built a brand new school and it cost X.
Mhm.
Well, I think I said that at one of the meetings I was at.
I've
maybe.
said it at the
And-
meetings
and-
too.
And I think the consensus was this town's not going to go for a new school. But I don't know if,
Our town is
From the-
never, it's going to
from
take
the
3
person.
tries, going to pay more. They're not going to pay more than,
right.
Like-
but I think, but then I
But
wasn't
if-
looking at it from Amy's side of it where, what if it's cheaper for us to build a whole brand new school? than
Yeah,
to
by
do
10
this?
to 20 million dollars, not by like $1 or $2 million.
Is that, let me,
I'm not saying that.
I've-
I'm just-
Right.
I'm just-
we need
Right.
to have like a max number. We
Yeah,
have to do a
um,
max number of,
Or
well,
not,
if we can.
or just tell them to price it out. There were, if we get that price in November before Thanksgiving, they did, like Sandy mentioned, he said, I can come up with a rough estimate of, okay, if you get rid of 4 classrooms out of this plan, you'll save X amount of dollars. It's getting to time and budget, so I don't know if we go send
But
them back to the drawing board if they have
So-
enough time.
I guess and we talked about this maybe 2 meetings ago,
Mhm.
but I guess I was under the impression that that we were kind of operating under the assumption that we were punting till next year anyway, that there's not going to be any building aid available this year, and the community
Hallelujah.
engagement hasn't begun yet in any real sense,
Mhm.
and that we weren't going to make this year's warrant anyway. Is that incorrect? Or is there still?
There won't be building aid for several years.
Oh, that reminds me.
There will not be
That's-
building aid this year. And because there's no building aid and the way they're changing it, I asked the question. Next year, there'll be some building aid, but all those 7 other people that were on there before they changed the process, they're going to be bumped up the list. The following year, some of those will be bumped up the list. We are nowhere near having any building aid years. We are
Okay.
on our own.
So that sucks. But there's still the question of, can we? But can we? I mean, I feel like, and Carrie brought this up a while ago. I think I was very, I don't want to say misled. I'll say I misunderstood. But I thought that the firm that came to us that we selected had said, yeah, we're going to do all this Facebook engagement. We're going to do all this stuff. And I haven't seen any of that. And I don't feel like we have time to put together a communication campaign that's going to get the trust that we need in this community by March.
We have
I 100% agree.
we have a meeting on November 7th to work on marketing and planning, and we have our community members that are ready to go. They're going to talk to the people that worked in Allenstown on their marketing campaign, and our firm is going to help us and walk us through that on November 7th.
Okay. I mean,
But I hear you with the timeline.
right. I mean, I would prefer, now that I know that building aid is a pipe dream anyway, I'd prefer to get it on the warrant,
Yeah.
because if it gets voted down, then we've got another shot next year, whatever. But I just, like, I mean, I feel like if this stuff doesn't like really, really ramp up in the next
Mhm.
month, like, I don't see it.
One thing I did forget from my Oyster River thing, I did want to say, they did that middle school 100% local money. They had no building aid. So they're kind of in that boat where we are, where we don't even think we're going to get building aid.
Yeah.
But I know I'm comparing apples to
Yeah.
oranges here
Right.
with Oyster River and Pembroke, but just that was one thing.
But
when
I don't
decided.
think I don't think it's necessarily apples and oranges. I think, and I'll soapbox a little bit here, but I've been standing up there at that meeting for 4 years now,
Mhm.
and it comes down to, do the school families show up on the day to vote? That's all. That's what it is. And we passed a budget by 6 votes one time, and there was a soccer game or something that day. And if there wouldn't have been, I'm confident it would have passed by 30 more votes. So to me, the most important thing here is touching base with every family that uses that school or has a kid between the ages of 0 and 5, because they want it. I mean, the people that I talk to, I know a family who has 2 kids that are both TRS and beyond now, but it's, there's a remarriage and there's a new kid that's like 3, and that kid's going to go to that school. And I kind of interjected, and I was like, hey, did you know that this is being planned? This is 6 months ago. Nobody really was paying attention. I said, hey, it's our plan to do this. And they were like, oh my God, that's such good news. And I feel like we just need to reach those people, and they'll show up. But it's going to take, I hope it's not 144, whatever you said, meetings, because,
That's a lot of meetings.
but
It's okay.
But I-
Patty's going to do it all in the living room fireside
She's
chats.
gonna have coffee and donuts with everybody.
We have it, the whole thing that we have to do next week for the SAU,
Yes,
okay?
yes.
And the Oyster River
Yes.
position too?
Yes.
And did you look at the salary and everything like that?
Yes.
Don't tell her 144 meeting.
No, I won't.
So I guess we need to come to. I mean, what can we do? We have to get them here. We have to get somebody here to talk us through this a little bit. And I mean, we don't have a meeting now for 3 weeks.
So, I mean, do we go back with a number or do we not give them a number? Like, where are we at here?
I can tell them that we're interested in having the project that we brought forward estimated, and then any specific information they can give us on cost cutting measures if we need to employ them, such as every classroom you chop off of this edition saves you X number of dollars, or
Question right now that should be reserved for the time we go into non-public, but
okay.
Just so but it'll have to do with this. But
Okay.
No, that's well, I
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
but getting back to your point, hey, we want to spend this much, so get rid of 4 classrooms. So I'm looking out like 20 years. We're going to need those 4 classrooms.
Yeah.
Right.
Based on the district assessment, there are 90 new, 90 new students, 90 more students in Pembroke this year than there were last year.
Yeah. So
that's a huge bump. And if they ever get to go ahead on the more condos down there, you go down my kid lives down there. There are tons of kids in there. So if you put there's going to be a ton more. And I would bet you, I won't say a majority, but a lot of those 90 came from there.
We just got 7 new first graders. 7 classes are up to 18, 19. Yeah. So you're right. I don't know that there's a lot of wants in that design, honestly.
And then the whole, somebody posted something today that kind of made me think about it too. You know, the Costco and that might go into Concord.
Yeah, they're talking
Whole Foods.
250 units
Whole Foods.
over there.
Yeah, so you got it just on the other side. So that pressure is going to keep coming this way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say, yeah, I'm willing to spend what they say it's going to cost, because you don't ever say that to a contractor ever.
No,
But I think personally, I think I lean a little bit more towards, I think, what Amy was trying to convey than what Gene was. And I think first and foremost, you need the space, right? You need what the teachers need to do their jobs and effectively educate the kids. But I also don't want it to be, just a bunch of concrete walls. And I've been to a fair amount of high schools around the state for different competitions and stuff. And there's pride in those schools. And when you walk into Salem High School, and it's like, it's nice. Like, and I think we should be building a building that we plan on being in for decades and decades and decades. I think the goal should be that it's more of a community space. We lost the gym at Village, the stage and everything. Like, I think that more people are going to be in that space. So it should be nice. But does that mean we can do the Cadillac plan?
No.
Probably not. So I just have no idea how to put a number on any of that.
Well, what if are we asking them to price it as it sits right now, as the plan sits right now, price this out, and then, because this discussion, we've gone round and round and we're not getting anywhere because we don't know. We're not the experts in construction management. So price it as it sits, and then we'll tell you, okay, we can't do that number, but we might be able to get this number to go through. What can you take off?
Yeah. So if we can ask that and maybe have them come, and so that, because if they give us that number, I'm sure we're going to have some questions immediately.
Absolutely.
And if
And
we
if-
can have a little discussion.
If they're ready on November 21st, that's your board meeting day. So,
Mhm.
well, Amber's doing budget that night, but we could still maybe get them to come just for a little bit,
Yeah. I mean, we could
at a meeting. They won't be ready
They
to
won't
do anything with numbers, though. Not until the 21st.
Well, I'd be looking almost like a guidance kind of thing. What should we be looking at? By looking at these plans, just where should our headspace be on these? And then when they give us the number, then we can be prepared for it, and then maybe have the questions ready at that point in time, rather than trying to think them off the top of our heads as we sit here in shock with our drawers on the table. So
Like what?
What? Like what Amy said, like, yeah.
Oh.
whatever, yeah. And then
That's the architects are going to be there on the 7th for that marketing stuff, but I don't know about our new CM firm.
Well, so, I mean, let's tentatively then say that we're going to, on the 21st, unless something urgent comes up, that meeting is going to be them and budget, nothing else. We'll keep it clear. We'll have, Wendy should probably be here, right, for Hill School stuff. But other than that, we probably don't need the other, it's going to be budget.
They're going to
so
go
maybe
through
they
the whole
should be
budget.
here.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we won't do policy that night. We won't do anything that we can put off until the next meeting. We will.
That's a work session. That's the second meeting anyway.
Right,
So we
good,
should be
okay.
good.
So, and then, I mean, schedule wise, if you can work that out, I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
Amber usually just stays here when she has to come one of our meetings. If she doesn't, then we can put her second and she can come back whenever. If she stays, we'll put her first and have these guys show up later, whatever.
She would. I think she would want to be here for that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, nap. That's it? Okay. It was plenty.
It's-
Those are the big things I wrote. March
Yep.
2024 bond growth. That's still our goal.
Okay.
I wrote no funding,
no funding.
Right.
Well, at least we know.
Okay.
Did you want to update us about the funding?
Funding.
Nope.
Nothing.
All right. Well then, agenda item number 6 is public comment. Thank you. So the board need to go into non-public session in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, small letter C, which is matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. On a roll call vote at 7:56, Carrie,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Jean, Nami, yes. Stop stuff.
I'm going to stop reviewing the national